for your insight. We now move on. US President Donald Trump has threatened Apple with a 25% tariff if the iPhones, if the company sells in the United States are not manufactured locally. In a post on Truth Social, Trump said he had long ago informed Tim Cook of Apple that he expects iPhones will be sold in the United States of America and they will be manufactured and built in the United States, not in India or anywhere else. Although completed smartphones are exempt from Trump's tariffs for now, not all components that go into Apple devices are shared. Apple expects US tariffs to cost $900 million in the current quarter, even though their impact was limited at the start of this year, according to Tim Cook. Meanwhile, after Trump's Apple threat, the market has taken a hit. The Apple market has slumped. The Dow Jones is down by 0.9%. The S&P 500 is at 1.18%, and the Nasdaq is now at 1.53%. Recently, Trump's sweeping tariffs on major US trading partners have roiled global markets and upended international commerce. We're now joined by Ajay Jua, former Commerce Secretary and Senior Economist located here in India. Thank you very much, Ajay, for joining us on the program. India had hopes to manufacture iPhones here in the subcontinent. What does this plan by Donald Trump scrap all those plans, do you think?
Thank you very much for having me on the show. I don't think the plan to manufacture smartphones in India, iPhones, particularly the ones by Apple, is huge. You must realize that the Apple has certainly started selling more phones in India ever since it set up its factories or its contract manufacturers, 3 of them, set up those factories in southern India, which has the comparative advantage to manufacture precision instruments. What was on the anvil? Now the question is whether that would get derailed or disrupted should be the question. That is, when Mr. Tim Cook openly said that he's going to expand the capacity in India from the current 10% of the total production of Apple around the world to almost 20%, and he gave a figure, he gave a terminal year as also the number of phones he would like to manufacture here, and that the base from India or the iPhones manufactured from India will be exported to to meet the United States local demand. Today, those phones are coming from Vietnam. Both those are on the radar of President Trump, and he had imposed higher duties on imports from there than from India, which was 26%, compared to 45% in one country, that's Vietnam, and 120% in China. So Mr. Cook had taken a decision based on ground realities that the duties on India or exports from India would be attracting lesser customs duties in the United States than elsewhere. So what has President Trump said today, after he probably had 2 meetings with Mr. Tim Cook, one right at the beginning of his recent tour to the Middle East, and second, I understand, on Tuesday, he met with him in the White House.
Yes.
I think what has happened is Mr. Cook has urged him that he should continue, he should allow him to expand in India, and that there are comparative advantages, sorry for using the term second time, compared to doing it in the United States. A similar phone as the one which was produced in India for say $1,000 would cost Mr. Cook to 3,500 rupees to produce it in the US, where the manufacturing culture over the years, particularly precision manufacturing, has gradually dwindled away, gone elsewhere in the world. China was the biggest beneficiary. So the customer in the US is still better off if 25% duty is levied on a $1,000 phone coming from India, rather than his having to pay $3,500 in the on the local, the US made phone. So that's number one observation I have. A second one is it's the supply chain for the phones. There are thousands of components, small components which go into the iPhones. The supply
Dr.
chain
Ajay, I'm really sorry. I've just got some more information. We are staying with you. US President Donald Trump has threatened to impose a 50% tariff on imports from the European Union. He is accused the 27-member trading bloc of stalling trade talks. He is lamenting that negotiations with the EU are going nowhere. His Truth Social post read that he is recommending a straight 50% tariff on the European Union starting on June the 1st of 2025. Following this, European stock markets tumbled. The Paris CAC 40 index of blue chip stocks was down at 2.8% at around 12:08 hours GMT, while the Frankfurt DAX also fell 2.5%. If the new duties come into effect, they would dramatically hike the current US baseline 10% levy against goods coming from the EU. It would also ratchet up the economic tensions between the world's biggest economy and its largest trading bloc. The talks between the United States and the EU have not gone smoothly with other partners. The EU recently threatened to hit US goods with nearly 100 billion euros with tariffs if the ongoing talks fail to lower levies on European goods. Dr. Ajay Jua, I want to come back to you. Apologies for the interruption. We can see these stock markets falling whenever Donald Trump makes an announcement. We can go back to Apple on this. We can go back to US domestic stocks on this, and we can go into the European stock market on this. It seems that one man has control over the stock market as it goes, and is making tremendous losses for a lot of companies and a lot of investors. What are your thoughts?
I would say that it's I don't want to comment on political aspects of this kind of arrangement, but in the United States, the government runs in the name of the president, and the president is probably more powerful than in several other democracies, or most other democracies of the world, where the process is more participative, and all kinds of powers in the United States do get vested in the president in the name of national security, or whatever other causes could be. So President Trump's statements do have a major effect on the stock market, because that's the day's development or the week's development. And this is not to say that the real strength of the United States actually decides the value of the dollar, decides the stock market prices in the long run, and in that several other institutions, if not individuals, do have a role. And the Fed is a very important body whose decisions do affect the liquidity in the market, they affect the interest rates, and consequently the process of price levels, as well as the overall economy, whether it is in a recession mode or it's buoyant. So those kind of things are there. There are checks and balances, but certainly I would concede that in the United States, the President of the United States does exercise powers which probably are not there in most other democracies of the world. I don't know about how it happens in the planned economies, or you call them the communist countries, but this is the situation. And I was just going to complete one aspect on the Apple phone, if you would allow me. that supply chain arrangements which Apple has put in place in China are for over the years. What it has arranged in Vietnam, a little shorter probably than in China, but certainly components were coming even earlier. Now from components has gone on to assembly. And in India, it has farmed out the manufacturing to people who are doing the work for Apple elsewhere in the world, particularly Foxconn. So Foxconn is making had made investments in India with component makers, as well as now gone into arrangements with on the assembly
Dr.
side.
Ajay Jua, thank you very, very much for joining us on the program. Apologies for the interruption. We have to move on. We stay in India, where the